Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Roberto Corona. I'm an Italian anthroposopher and astrologer, and in this video we're going to talk about the upcoming new moon in Leo on August 12, which will be a total solar eclipse visible from Northern Europe. The eclipse will particularly affect Spain, something we can already see happening from the latest news related to the invasion of Spanish borders by thousands of Moroccan migrants. Now, as we move towards the date of the eclipse, we're also approaching a very important event. I'm referring to the arrival of the Perseids, the shooting stars, which are going to forge the sword of Archangel Michael with the cosmic iron gifted by the gods. May this influence help us navigate the month of August, which is going to challenge us with eclipse season 2. We have already discussed the first eclipse season, which occurred between February and March of this year. Now, the second sequence includes a total solar eclipse at 20 degrees Leo, and at the end of the month, a partial lunar eclipse at about 5 degrees Pisces. As always, let's take a look at the calendar to see what changed in the sky since the last full moon in Aquarius on July 29. We have a few new developments. On August 6, Venus enters Libra, its diurnal domicile, bringing important contributions, as we will see. On August 9, Mercury enters Leo, joining Jupiter. And finally, on August 11, Mars enters Cancer, the sign of its fall. Let's now move on to the eclipse chart, which again is a solar eclipse, which means that the sun, the moon, and the earth are aligned in that order, and by definition a solar eclipse is a new moon, during which, as we know, the moon overshadows the sun. Now, being a new moon, the eclipse triggers events that have a sudden and unpredictable character, and on top of that, anthroposophy tells us that the cone of shadow that the moon is projecting on the earth during the event allows harmful entities present on our planet to be expelled out into the cosmos. Now, this phenomenon is in general better than that of the lunar eclipse, where nasty forces enter back to the Earth. But we should not underestimate the fact that these forces still gather and accumulate before being thrown out, so it is still a very challenging moment. Now, eclipses are different according to the lunar node on which they happen, and as you can see here, this eclipse is taking place next to the south node, the so-called dragon's tail, which, by the way, comes with a poisoning sting. Now, traditionally, the south node is considered to be a little Saturn, and this means that it brings a destructive quality, or if you like, it tends to bring major endings in our life. Now, looking at the chart, we can see that the sun and moon are located at 20 degrees and 2 minutes Leo, and the eclipse is taking place on the stereo image of the lion, and in particular on the head of the lion, right on a star called Ras El-Azed Australis. Now, this star literally means southern star, Australis, of the lion's head, Ras El-Azed. This star comes with the nature of two malefic planets, Saturn and Mars, and the two natures of the star are reaffirmed by basically the only planet that is making an aspect to the eclipse. So we have the sun and the moon representing the eclipse, and this green line connecting them with a trine aspect to Saturn in Aries. Now, Saturn is one of the two planets involved in the nature of the star, and the other one is Mars, and Mars is reaffirmed by the fact that Saturn itself is in Aries, and Aries is the zodiac sign of Mars. Now, overall, the chart presents us with an envelope configuration. So you can see that here we have a mystical rectangle closed by the envelope shape, and the envelope should harmonize two oppositions. the opposition between Jupiter and Pluto here, and the opposition between Neptune and Venus right here. Now, the problem with that is that the focal point of the envelope is here, and it is represented by Uranus in Gemini, which is not a suitable planet to create this harmonization, but on the contrary, it is quite destabilizing, especially because Uranus is in the zodiac sign of mutable air, so it is very, very unstable. Let's now tackle the meanings of the chart, starting with the physical meanings. Leo is the zodiac sign of kings, rulers, the powerful, and the elite, who, with a solar eclipse, could abuse their power. The trine of the eclipse with Saturn in Aries, which is debilitated in the zodiac sign of the warrior, could indeed bring them to the use and abuse of military force for repressive purposes. So we have Saturn with the forces of repression, and military force, of course, has to do with Aries, the zodiac sign of the warrior. Again, remember that the eclipse is happening on fixed star Ras Elazed Australis, which, having the same natures as Mars and Saturn, could make this repression particularly intense, if not even violent. Now, this repression can even be passed off as a form of justice because, as we have seen here, we have Jupiter in Leo, who can bring this influence, but on a sort of distorted personal level. Basically, justice, Jupiter is the planet of justice, in Leo is too personalistic. And repression easily becomes a way to teach a lesson, so to speak, or can be actually used as a form of propaganda. And this is especially the case because, as you can see, together with Jupiter, we find also Mercury, the planet of communication, in conjunction with Jupiter. Remember that Jupiter is also making an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, which means that these operations could lead to mass protest movements demanding true social justice and equality. We have already discussed this in the video about Jupiter in Leo. At the very least, a solar eclipse gives us the chance to expel the Leo shadows out into the cosmos and bring them clearly to consciousness right after their outburst. Now, from a psychological perspective, the chart features an excess of fire energy, and in fact, 6 out of 10 planets are in zodiac signs of this element, which could lead to great anger and frustration, two emotions that we have already discussed with the last full moon in Aquarius. Now, this influence affecting collective emotions is expressed at an archetypal level by a planet in particular. I am talking about Neptune down here. Neptune is the generational planet of collective emotions, and now, as you can see, Neptune is in Aries. And this placement represents a collective imagination steeped in the imagery of war. Now, Neptune is in close opposition to Venus in Libra here, which seeks to bring to the collective a more mature feeling, linked above all to the sphere of law represented by Libra, and especially, I would say, international law, given its trine to Uranus. So we have international law represented by this trine here. Therefore, Venus helps to process our anger here, inviting us to also, taking into consideration the point of view of others, so to escape the self-centered logic of Leo that only further fuels our anger. But why have we now focused specifically on the opposition between Venus and Neptune? Now, the reference to Venus is not accidental. In fact, from a heliocentric perspective, Venus is involved. And this leads us to discuss the spiritual meanings of the chart, which are based on two considerations mainly. Now, the first concerns the constellation of Leo, since the eclipse is taking place in this constellation. Now, the second concerns the heliocentric position of Venus, and in fact, heliocentric Venus is in conjunction with Saturn's aphelion. Now, Saturn's aphelion is the point in Saturn's orbit farthest away from the Sun and the solar sphere. Now, Saturn is the only planet making an aspect with the eclipse, so it is very important to understand what this eclipse is all about. And Venus is definitely has definitely a central influence in the chart because of her heliocentric configuration. Now, in astrosophy, the sphere of planet Venus that is affecting on the sphere of Saturn is linked to the spiritual hierarchy of the archangels in particular. So what's the task of the archangels? Just as the angels guide and help a single person, you can think about the holy guardian angel, for example. The archangels are the spirits who guide and help entire nations. Now, in this moment of crisis, when leaders and those in positions of power are tempted to abuse their authority, the sphere of the archangels brings their benevolent influence, softening through the forces of Venus this infernal fire of the eclipse. And not only that, but the constellation of Leo in astrosophy in particular is intimately connected to the angels. So we have the lower sphere, the sphere of the angels involved as well. So again, the angels are now inspiring the hearts of the human beings, and each human being has their own angel following them and guiding them. So we can think about the whole process as the archangels who guide people. They are basically acting in a particular way on the angels that are the sphere immediately lower, and the angels themselves, they are inspiring the individual leaders to help them emerge from the darkness. Now, this subtle and loving gesture obviously requires the participation of the eye of individual human beings to be effective, but at least the help is there. Lastly, as we know, we can use astrocartography to see where in the world the eclipse is going to be stronger. Basically, we can see here where the eclipse is going to take place on one of the four angles. Now, the angles, by the way, are the most powerful points of a chart. We can see in red the ascendant line, which is not particularly interesting. In green, the midheaven line here, that is affecting the American continent, and as we will see, Canada in particular. In yellow, the descendant line. This is very, very interesting because it is affecting Europe, and in blue, the IC line hitting on China and the Southeast Asia. Now, if we compare this chart with the actual path of the eclipse, we can see where the event will be stronger. And this image is taken from the website timeanddate.com. And as you can see, the eclipse mainly affects Canada and Europe, with a particular focus on Spain. In fact, with the latest news of an invasion on Spanish territory by Moroccan migrants, we are already seeing these masses of people associated with Pluto in Aquarius beginning to take shape. As always, thanks for watching. If you want to support my work, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell not to miss out on future astrological insights. I am Roberto Corona. See you in the next video.